Hey, special little Saturday morning show before I race off and get my kiddos to a laundry list of things. We got Little League in the morning. We got play dates in the afternoon. I've got a play-by-play gig myself later on in the afternoon and into the evening. Should be a busy and fun Saturday, but let's get you some recap action from Friday. I'm Dan Bespers, and this is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. We'll start at the top and work our way through fast. We're going to see if we can do this one in 25 minutes or less off a big card. That might be asking a lot. Remember to like, rate, and subscribe. Denver beat Detroit. I don't even know how Detroit got to 119 points, to be honest with you, because Cade Cunningham was bad in this ball game. Russell Westbrook was a barely hold guy. We may have hit the end of the line on Russ. With no Aaron Gordon in this game, it felt like this was kind of tailor-made for Russ to actually get back involved. And he's just struggling right now, guys. And we're at that time of the year where with the playoffs coming around and, roto leagues, he's not doing enough at all. I think it's time to move on. It's the main four here in Denver, and then Gordon in some formats. Typically, it'd be punt free throw, but this year it's punt defensive stats. For Detroit, there aren't many surprises with Detroit. Asar Thompson had 5 steals. He's a great steals guy these days. He's been good enough. Dennis Schroeder was actually a little bit better in this game, but I'm not going to advise adding him. You could look at him as, a schedule play kind of dude. Detroit, what's their schedule look like this coming week? This is the part of a back-to-back, and then the schedule gets good again like next Saturday. This is Cade's worst game in a very long time, and somehow they still got to 119 points. I don't really know how. Everybody got a few, basically. You're not going to change the way you're grading things out. Jalen Duren had a rare, terrible game. Tobias was okay. Beasley was okay. Asar was okay. Cade was bad, and so on and so forth. But, you're not adding or dropping anybody based on the results of this one game. So let's move on. Cleveland trailed by more than 20 points in this game, and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley led a furious late game comeback. They ended up winning by 7. Really fun game. Cavs and Celtics kind of seem destined to see one another in the playoffs, although I guess the Knicks and Bucks will have something to say about that. Darius Garland's back, so Ty Jerome goes back to being a stream-level guy. DeAndre Hunter is a stream-level guy. So with the Cavs, you're kind of back to the main dudes. Main 4, Spida, Mobley, Jared Allen, Darius Garland. That's it. With Boston, they were down Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday, so they can sort of delude themselves into thinking that would have made the difference in this ball game, but they're still a very good team. Jason Tatum finally had kind of one of his big explosion games. Jaylen Brown was also very good. Derek White has bounced back nicely. Al Horford is playing at barely fill-in level with guys out. Sam Hauser, you're only streaming him if you need 3-pointers. And really, that's what the Celtics are at this point is, are you going to run injury play stuff on them? And in Roto, the answer is probably no. I don't think these guys are worth a games cap play. And with Horford, he sits out the back-to-backs anyway. So for Hauser, if you're looking at a back-to-back, maybe you could squeeze 4 or 5 threes out of him. But again, it's not that good. Portland picked up another win. They're far beyond the tanking idea. So if you've got Blazers that are playing big minutes, you can kind of assume that they're going to keep doing it. So Tamani Kamara is a go. Shaden Sharp got a start here with Denny Avdia out of the lineup. And Jeremy Grant, sorry. We know DeAndre Ayton's out, which typically would have been good for Denny Avdia, but he was out. So you got a little bit of a trickle-down thing going on, and that's why Shaden Sharp had such a big ball game. Donovan Clingan finally got 28 minutes. He was terrible at the free throw line, but the other stuff was pretty decent. Simons is fine. Scoot is a go. Chris Murray was the guy who got a big bump in this game. Same with Delano Banton. You're not playing those guys unless you have the biggest fantasy balls on earth. Which, by the way, isn't always a good thing. Sometimes it's kind of okay to have little tiny fantasy balls. Little bitty fantasy balls. I think that's it. I'm trying to move fast, so we're moving fast. Avdia, Grant. If Grant comes back before Avdia, that's really good. Wait, flip it. If Avdia comes back before Grant, that's good for Denny. I don't know how this is going to go. Neither one of them seems that badly injured, but, we'll play it piece by piece. I clowned on Killian Hayes, and so he stuck it in my grill. He had another good shooting game, but, are you really going to go down that path? They benched Keon Johnson in favor of Killian Hayes for reasons I don't entirely understand. Cam Thomas was back for this ball game. D'Angelo Russell's still out. That's part of it. Nick Claxton's a go. Cam Johnson's a go. Cam Thomas is honestly a hard call in 21 minutes. He's probably not a 9-cat play in only 21 minutes a game. And I know he took 17 shots in 21 minutes, which, again, like we joked about that, but it is what he's going to do. But he just doesn't do other stuff. And his coach kind of called him out for not doing any other stuff, for being basically just a guy who chucked up shots and wasn't part of a fluid offensive team. And that's fine. It's his first game back. He hasn't played since, beginning of January, and he's played 2 games in the last 3 months. So it's been a rough go for Cam. Points leaguers, you should enjoy it. Everybody else, you probably want to let him get ramped up a little bit more before you drop him into your lineup. And then with Hayes, nah. This is part of a back-to-back, so that's the only way that it makes sense. Week 21, they have a 5-game week. That would be the time to take a look at it. But yeah, I mean, at that point, D'Lo might be back, and Noah Clowney might be back. You can see on your screen, those are the 2 main guys that are missing right now. That 5-game week is going to be a really interesting one because, look, Zaire Williams went down to 10 and a half minutes. Keon Johnson still got 29 and a half off the bench. Jalen Wilson, 23. Trendon Watford, 16. Deron Sharp, 19. Tyrese Martin, 25. Handicapping the Nets is spinning the wheel of madness these days. Have fun. OKC got another win. No surprise there. Shea was excellent, as usual. Lou Dort had his, once every 3 weeks wake-up game. Chet Holmgren got hurt early in this one. Ankle sprain. That allowed Isaiah Hartenstein to cut loose for his first big ball game, kind of since Chet got ramped up. We were talking a lot about Alex Caruso, who sat this one out. We were talking about Aaron Wiggins, who was fine but unspectacular. Because, again, what does Wiggins do? He's points and some threes on good percentages. There's not a lot else to his fantasy game. So if he doesn't get a lot of usage one game, it's hard for him to hit value. Which is why, in general, I don't play the OKC guys against a games cap. I did it for Alex Caruso for a couple of games because I thought there was a chance he might be able to squeeze out enough steals and assists to kind of barely get you there. But these guys are all fringy, and that's the story of this card so far. Every team we've talked about has been like a host of fringe-level guys. And OKC is part of that, and Atlanta's part of that. Atlanta's got all these dudes. Shout out to Dem Birds for pointing out that the pronunciation that I had of Mogi was incorrect. I was, and this is, by the way, I hate to throw somebody under the bus, but in this particular case, I don't mind throwing them under the bus. I was going by the Lakers radio broadcast, which is like the ultimate in what are you doing, Dan? Those guys... All right, well, it shouldn't be that surprising that the pronunciation was goofball. His name is Mo Gay, but he's not doing enough to warrant fantasy consideration. Karis LeVert played well. Terrence Mann played well again. That's actually kind of 2 decent ones in a row for both of those guys. George Niang was okay also, but you're not using a games cap for those guys. So hunt down Atlanta's best scheduling spot, which conveniently is the start of this coming week, but they're off now for 2 days. So if you're streaming now, the Hawks are actually kind of hard to hang on to. If you're streaming to look at the beginning of next week, that's when these guys would make sense. LeVert, Mann, Niang in particular, maybe even Risa Shea if you're not as concerned about your percentages. Those guys could get you off to kind of a quick start with a back-to-back at the beginning of next week, and I think there's only 4 teams that are actually part of that. Guys, Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number 1 source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, from every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win, including NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and more. BetOnline, the game starts here. The Knicks beat Memphis. OG Anunoby's late three-pointer pushed him over the hump. Cat was back. Didn't play all that well, but he was back, so we're back to basically the main dudes for the Knicks. Josh Hart had some foul trouble. That's why you got a few extra minutes out of Miles McBride, the man they called Deuce. Mitchell Robinson also made his return and played 12 minutes, and so we don't care. Start the starters in New York. They're a very easy team to handicap. The Grizzlies, on the other hand, are not an easy team to handicap. Zach Edey had a double-double with a couple of blocks, which is basically what you kind of know you're getting out of Donovan Clingan these days, and you hope you're getting out of Zach Edey. That's why I've got Clingan over Edey in my rankings. Zach, to me, is like kind of a high-level streaming play for mostly rebounds and field goal percent from a center that won't tank your free throws. But mostly this is a team where I'm sitting on JJJ, Ja, and Desmond Bane. The rest of the path is dicey. Excuse me. Alama. That was like, that sounded like I accidentally slipped into Will Ferrell doing Harry Carey. Santi Aldama is playable in head-to-head, but I still don't have the balls to play him in Roto. Yes, I'm talking about balls a lot on today's show, but it's because I'm trying to go fast. As you can see, the Toronto and Chicago game is not over yet. As the time I'm recording this in two halves, and I'm recording the first half of today's show. Basically, while the late games are in like the late in the first half, and the early games are over, and so you get this every once in a while. Dan scrolls past a box score that. Or a score that isn't done. By the way, that game is over now. I just hadn't refreshed the page in time. Also, we're not going to do an underdog card today because I don't think I have the whole card out yet. Oh well. I've been having a lot of fun with them, and so I would strongly suggest, if you want to get involved, have some fun, let's do a little underdog fantasy together. Click on the link in the show description, or use promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, to unlock up to $1,000 in deposit match bonus cash and a free play that turns one of your two pick'em choices into a gimme. Basically, it's a free square. You only need to pick two to create a pick'em card. If you've been playing with us over the last few weeks, you know that's generally what I've been doing. You pick higher or lower on any of hundreds of projections daily. You got to do two. If you hit them, you can 3x your initial buy-in. Do another one, throw three names on your pick'em card. You can go 6x, and it jumps from there. 9, 10, 20, 50s, like up to 1,000x. You're not going to hit those very often. It's wiser typically to just go two. Play a little, get your feel for it, then use that free play. Again, Old Man, OLDMAN is the promo code to unlock those two sweet bonuses. I hope you will certainly do those with us. Where do we leave off? Not there. We were at Toronto and Chicago. Chicago won this game in overtime. Ochai Agbaji left early, but if a tree falls in the forest. With Toronto, you're playing the main four. Jakob Poeltl's kind of being ramped back up a little bit here, but as soon as he gets there, he's going to be totally fine. And frankly, he did enough in this ball game to start. But it's Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, Jakob Poeltl, and then for various punt builds, RJ Barrett. And you shouldn't go any farther than that. I know Grady Dick had 13-9 on bad shooting. This is actually one of the better games for Grady. So, nah. By the way, if you were worried that Jalen Smith was going to steal all of Zach Collins' playing time, worry no more. Zach Collins is very much the backup to Nikola Vucevic on the Bulls right now. He played 40 minutes of this overtime game and had another really outstanding ball game. I like Kevin Huerter as kind of a threes, points, steals streamer right now. I think Huerter's in a pretty good spot. Now, some of that is because of the absences, mostly Patrick Williams and a little bit of Vooch, allowing just more opportunity out there. I thought with Ayo Dosunmu coming back that would put a dent into Huerter. Instead, it seems to have put a dent into Ayo. I think you can drop Dosunmu, who is a guy that I thought they were going to be kind of high on down the stretch, but it's looking like maybe no. Lonzo's a hold in GamesCap formats. Huerter's a play, I believe, in all formats until they start to get guys back. Collins is a play until Vooch comes back. And then obviously Giddey and White are, along with Vooch, your very safe Bulls plays. Tyrese Halliburton's still rolling, but it wasn't enough. He, Pascal Siakam, and Miles Turner are the easy choices for Indiana. Aaron Nesmith is a schedule play. Andrew Nembhard is right now kind of revved back up a little. He's playing a little bit better at the moment. That's good. That's kind of an assists, steals, and I think you could probably call it, what's the other half of that? Assists, steals, sort of field goal percent guy, because Nemhart's a decent field goal percent guard, although he doesn't hit you any 3-pointers. So that's kind of where the trouble kicks in and why it's hard for Nemhard to be a top 100 guy more permanently. But he's a great streamer for the specialist stuff right now when he gets warm like this, which is great. Going into your head-to-head playoffs, it's the perfect time. Although I don't think Indy has a good schedule next week. Nah, they don't. They play Sunday to finish off this week, but then they got a 3-gamer before their schedule gets really, really good, week 21 into 22. Miami. Well, I mean, the weirdness continues. Khalil Ware, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo are the and typically Andrew Wiggins, but he was out for this ball game, are the obvious choices. With no Wiggins, we had the question of who gets to pick up the pieces, and it was a combination of Duncan Robinson and Davion Mitchell in this one. A little bit of Haywood Highsmith, but more so Robinson and Mitchell. I believe Davion Mitchell is a nice, pretty solid schedule play. I don't think he's ever going to be good enough to play every single game. Duncan Robinson is a threes streamer, although Terry Rozier resurfaced from the bottom of the ocean in this ball game. If you can figure out when the hell these guys are going to play. No rest of season guys for me, and I would assume that Wiggins is back in the not too distant future, so probably don't get too crazy there. And that, by the way, is kind of the first, I don't say half of the card. That's the early-ish games all wrapped up. I'm going to personally take a break, and then we'll finish up a little bit later on, and we'll have this show for you first thing on Saturday morning. Right now, we're going to take a commercial break while the other games finish up. And we're back. Commercial break was just a few moments for you, but a couple of hours for me. The rest of the games have now gone final. New Orleans, they beat the Suns actually yesterday, so they went to the JV squad in this one. McCollum and Zion sat this one out, along with all the guys that are already hurt. And Jordan Hawkins was the big winner. I have to admit, I didn't see that one coming. I thought Kelly Olynyk would have a pretty good game. He was fine. I thought Bruce Brown would have a slightly better ball game. He was fine. I figured Eve Misi would have a better game. He did. I thought Jose Alvarado and Carlo Matkovic would have better games. They did not. And then Trey Murphy was just sort of fine. But Jordan Hawkins was the one that kind of came out of nowhere. Just something to keep in mind if they ever do this again. You look to see who's starting, where the shot's going to go. Hawkins, a guy who's not bashful about taking a bunch of shots. But looking ahead, and the best thing we can do with this information is just to kind of see what the Pelicans have coming up. They do not have another back-to-back until the end of next week, which I realize is not that long of a gap there. But I don't think there's a reason to hang on to Jordan Hawkins for 3 games over 7 days when he's likely to be kind of a low-scoring, low-impact dude. Also, in terms of Jose Alvarado, he's been playing. The minutes have trended down, but he's still been playing relatively well. This ball game put a little bit of a dent into that, and I think the pickups out there are not that all that amazing right now. But I do think it's possible we can do better than Jose if he's not going to get the consistent point guard run, and if it's going to be frickin' Bruce Brown instead, that kind of blows that up in our face. I do still think Kelly Olynyk belongs on games cap rosters if he's going to be sitting out back-to-backs. I don't know how you roster him in sort of traditional head-to-head leagues. Eve Missy is my guy in punt free throw builds. Obviously, you have the sort of main dudes. And then Carlo Matkovic is someone to keep an eye on because he played pretty well in the first game of this back-to-back when Olynyk was out, but didn't play well with Olynyk in and Zion out. Kind of confusing there, but it's why he's sort of like permanent watch list guy. The biggest news of the day is that Bol Bol is still in starting lineups. It just keeps staying in starting lineups. Like we keep thinking that he's not gonna be, and then he keeps gonna be. I don't know how else to frame it really. Bol Bol belongs on every damn roster you can find. I have no idea how long it's gonna last. It might evaporate when Grayson Allen and Bradley Beal come back. It also might not. One thing we do know is that when Beal is out, Tyus Jones gets starters minutes. He wasn't as good in this ball game, but he still hit 3 threes and had 6 assists with a steal. I think he's streamable in all formats when Bradley Beal is hurt. What we don't know is how long that's going to last. Also, there's a couple good games in a row from Nick Richards. I don't think it should be considered a coincidence that it came against a team that doesn't really know how to play defense. He's very up and down. I have Nick Richards just as a rebounds and field goal percent stream, which typically doesn't get you inside the top 100. You kind of need that third category, and he doesn't really have that third category. I don't trust Royce O'Neal when Grayson Allen is in. Grayson Allen was out, but even then, Royce is sort of a dice roll. But man, Bol Bol, ladies and gentlemen, Bol Bol. This ball game should not have required the starters to play 30 plus minutes, but here we are. Phoenix is just bad. They're just bad, but they don't play defense, which is good. It's conducive for fantasy value, and so we can kind of build on that. So Bol Bol, I mean, he shouldn't be the ad of the day because he should have been an ad after playing better in the last one. Uh, but if he wasn't, you better go get him. Minnesota lost at Utah. No Anthony Edwards because he picked up his 16th technical foul in the previous ball game. That is really at this point kind of unforgivable. I know it's a stupid rule. Like, why suspend a guy for 16 technical fouls? It's really like it's punitive punishment to try to get players to shut the hell up during the ball game and not bitch at the officials the whole time. And players should somehow be able to get themselves under control. But also, it's a really heated game. They're passionate. I don't know what they're saying to the officials, but we gotta be going easier on the technical fouls. Not that it's going to cost Minnesota like a playoff spot, but they fall to the number 9 hole now, basically because Anthony Edwards got suspended. If he's in this game, they win. As it stands, no Gobert, no Randall, no Ant-Man. That means a lot of shots are on the table, and most of them went to Naz Reid. Not complaining. Naz Reid, another colossal ball game. Jaden McDaniels, another big ball game. Dante DiVincenzo belongs in all lineups. I'm not a huge Nickeil Alexander-Walker guy. Uh, more points and some steals mixed in. It's not really enough. Same with this Terrence Shannon Jr. fella. He's had a couple of good ball games in a row, but I'll be damned if I'm going to go trotting him out there. You're basically just he'll play Anthony Edwards when he comes back, and then Nas, McDaniels, and DiVincenzo are the other guys you can play. When Randall comes back, I don't know what that's going to do necessarily to the front court. I think there'll still be enough. And then when Gobert comes back, then we have to sort of triply reassess what's going on there. My expectation, and we'll see how this thing shakes out. My expectation is that you're still going to be able to play Nas and Jade McDaniels and Dante DiVincenzo, and you just add these other guys in. It's just that it's not going to be as juicy. Nas Reid is not going to be a top 25 guy. He's going to be like a top 100 guy. Jade McDaniels is not going to be a top 40 guy. He's going to be like a top 100 guy also. DiVincenzo, possibly similar thing, although I do also think Dante's about to take that point guard job back from Mike Conley. This was sort of the like half varsity squad for Utah. I think Jordan Clarkson might actually be hurt. I don't know what the hell's going on with Lauri Markkanen. It's possible they both are. It's possible they both might not be. Utah didn't even play their guys full minutes. They tried so hard to lose this game, and they still won it by accident. Stupid. Colin Sexton only got 17 minutes in his return, and they still won. Walker Kessler only played 26 minutes. They still won. Utah tried so hard not to win this game. Oopsie whoopsies. I believe that Keontae George will no longer be a startable player as these other guys get worked back in, specifically Colin Sexton. He's the one that kind of blows it up. If you're punting field goal, you could probably still give Keontae a look. If Clarkson or Markkanen comes back at any point in the not too distant future and plays alongside the other varsity players for Utah, then you're really in trouble. I will point out, though, that Utah's next 2 games are a back-to-back. So you're going to get JV for at least one of those games, possibly kind of like a split squad deal for them. So Isaiah Collier, the turnovers, man. Punt, he's an 8-cat guy. You got to be punting turnovers to play Collier. Keontae, punt field goal, possibly also punt steals would be helpful. Sexton, don't start him yet, but probably at some point soon. Markkanen, you try to hold. Clarkson, you drop. Kessler, you play. Collins, you play. That's the Utah Jazz. Clippers and Lakers, this was a defensive struggle. Chris Dunn was great because Norman Powell's still out. When Norm comes back, Dunn likely goes to the bench. And then I don't know that he's going to be able to keep up this kind of thing, but he's racking up steals like they're going out of style. So play Chris Dunn until Powell's back, which might unfortunately be in the next ball game if you want Chris Dunn. I have a lot of Norman Powell, so I'd like for him to come back. Ivica Zubac always dominates the Lakers. They just don't have anybody that can compete with him from a pure size standpoint. He was a monster. James Harden was the pillar of inefficiency, and Kawhi Leonard couldn't shoot free throws. But at least we kind of know what to do. You're Playing Dunn, you're playing Zubac, you're playing Harden, you're playing Kawhi, and when Powell comes back, you replace Chris Dunn with Norman Powell. For the Lakers, it's time to figure out if anybody else on this team can do anything at all. Obviously, you're going to get a lot out of Luka. You're going to get a lot out of LeBron. But Austin Reeves went down with a calf injury, and we don't yet have a report on how long he's expected to be out. They're going to ask what the deal. So the post-game report, I guess we can throw this out there, is that Austin Reeves was held out for precautionary reasons. I don't think I believe that. Like, he got ruled out pretty quick, and he's going for an MRI tomorrow. I don't think we can believe anything until we get a result on that MRI. That's a big deal, because there really isn't another guy on the Lakers that can take what Austin Reeves does. What you're hoping for is that Rui Hachimura gets back quickly. He would be the guy to do extra, but Rui was probably on your rosters anyway. The problem, of course, is that, Rui Hachimura, by the way, he's out a week. That also just came out. So that, never mind. Left patella tendinopathy. So Hachimura is out for at least a week. So they really need Austin Reeves to not be out for very long, because this one was not great. Teams are going to start loading up on Luka and LeBron. They have to find a way to give those guys rest in a tough stretch, and they'll figure it out. My best guess is that you're going to see 25, 26 minutes out of Jackson Hayes with Rui out, because they just need somebody, and I talked about this on yesterday's podcast, they need somebody that can attack the rim, and Hayes doesn't have any offensive game, but at least he forces the defense to respect a dunker. And he was bad in this one because Zubac was pushing him around. But typically, if you get 26 minutes out of Jackson Hayes, he's going to be a rebounds, field goal percent, and defensive stats stream, and that would be good enough. 25, 26 minutes is good enough. So I think Jackson Hayes belongs on many rosters, perhaps not all if you're not attacking those categories, but if you are, then he's a guy that makes sense. If you can hang on to Rui, you try to do it. He might get an IL designation with this now news that he's out a week. But if you can't stash him, you got to drop him in your head-to-head spots. Roto, you hang on. And then obviously Austin Reeves, you hang on as well. And that's your card. Thanks for watching, everybody. Wrap this sucker up. I got it done, not 25 minutes. Got it done in under 30, though. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Forgot to remind you in the middle of the show to please take a moment to subscribe to the Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball YouTube channel, iTunes or Spotify feed, or however you're taking in the show. Follow me on social media at Dan Vespris, on Twitter, Old Man Squad on the Blue Sky Network. Thank you to BetOnline. Thank you to Underdog Fantasy. Again, I will not have a card going on Saturday because I have an extremely busy day. And if you're thinking, this wasn't enough Dan, I want to listen to more Dan, the LMU baseball game I'll be calling will be on ESPN Plus, and I believe with any kind of TV membership, you have access to that. You might even have access to that without it. I'm not positive. I don't know. I'm only paid to broadcast. I don't know how to. I don't have to watch it. That's producer. Producer's got that. Thanks for watching this show, everybody. Again, thank you for all the subscriptions. We'll be back with you on Sunday. We'll have a weekly preview show. And again, a reminder, we're going to have a streaming show every single day, starting on Monday of next week, because lots of you are in your playoffs. I want to make sure you guys are making the right pickups and drops. And we're long streaming. Basically, we're going to play out the week with 4 moves, and we'll just do it all together. I'm Dan for the Old Man Squad Network.